And welcome to episode 123 of Habs Unfiltered. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvey, and we are joined now by a special guest, Jason Paul of waveintel.org. Hi, Jason.
Hey, how you boys doing?
Good, good. And joining Jason, just because, they help pay my bills on this show, Matt Smith.
Good morning, guys.
And Treg, I have Bell with a John Lou package, Wilson.
I might be in and out. I don't know. I got the John Lou Bell package going on here.
Perfect timing for freezing up. That looked amazing. So
That was not planned.
not planned at all. But yeah, so people watching on YouTube may see Treg freeze up a little bit. We apologize in advance for having his face on longer than it needs to be. But we're going to just dive into the Habs news, notes, and everything in between with Jason, who's been kind enough to come on today and talk a little bit about that using advanced stats. So I've got my Texas Instrument calculator ready to go. So why don't we just kick this off? Matt, you had a question to kick it off.
So before I logged in, you guys were kind of discussing a little bit about Jeff Petrie and Edmundston, and I'm just wondering your opinion on Edmundston's game in relation to how Petrie is really taken off this season, and isn't just putting the puck in the net, but he's more or less just rounding out as a solid top four defender.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the year, I had my thumb on that pairing to see how long they were going to take to gel. And to tell you the truth, I think it's been a bit up and down just from the eye perspective. And I think last night could be a microcosm of Petrie's year. I mean, I thought you guys watched the game. People on Twitter were saying, "Well, it's some pretty big gaffes they were making, little miscues here and there." And in the end, they washed out not so great 5-on-5. They were -1. They had a couple of high danger chances against. Their shot metrics were okay, but then Petrie scores a goal and assist on the power play, right? So all that washes away. So I mean, when I look at the data, Petrie had a fantastic year last year. He had just an incredible underlying statistical year. And this year, it's not quite as good, but he's putting the puck in the net. That's just hockey, right? So I think there's some inflated, there's some hot air a little bit in what's happening with those two guys. The shooting percentage is high for them. Their line mates, we can expect that stuff to come down. But the good news is the underlying data, the shot metrics, 5-on-5, look really good.
Now, speaking of 5-on-5 play and the game last night against Ottawa, that the Canadiens finally won, thank God. Just looking at the 5-on-5 play, it kind of, the eye test made it seem like the Habs were getting a little bit more touches. Did your stats that you compile kind of match up with that, with, for instance, zone entries and exits and possession time?
Yeah. So you're just talking about last night?
Yeah.
Last night they had again another decent game, just with the shot metrics, the expected goals and the Corsi and all that kind of stuff. Pretty much classic. But what I thought was a bit of a difference was some of the micro stats that you see me pump out once in a while, the transition stuff. Lots of attempts by Petrie exiting the zone, but the two ones that stuck out were Suzuki and Kotkaniemi. They were much more active than they have been recently with the exits and the entries, and they were fantastic. And kind of like the bubble. In the bubble, it was one thing that I saw that Deneau's activity for transition was very low, but it's kind of the style he plays. He plays deep in his own end, so he actually chips it to his wingers who get the puck out. And kind of the same thing in the neutral zone, he defers to his wingers. Whereas Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, as you see, they hang on to the puck, they carry it, they take command of the game that way. And so you get higher quality, in my opinion, you get higher quality play when your centers, those guys are making nifty passes in and out of the zone, right? So that's what we saw in the bubble, and last night was identical. I think Suzuki had the most entries last night. Kotkaniemi had some really high controlled entries, and the fail rate was very low, which means they weren't mucking up. So that looks good. I just feel that that's a change in how Ducharme must be, asking his players to play.
Further on to that, with the 5-on-5 play and especially the transition play, my eye test told me that the team was a little bit more active in actually generating their transition game. So there was a lot more controlled zone exits, in my view, namely with Romanov. Romanov seemed to have, whenever he had the puck, it seemed that he was able to transition it under control. Did that match up with the stats?
It did. He looking at some of the previous games, he was not controlling it. And last night we have him down as 4 controlled exits and only 1 failed, and no dump attempts, right? So like to your point, the style of play he plays, right? So he had 4, Petrie had 6 controlled exits, but he had way more attempts, right? So I thought Romanov played fantastic last night. Him and Kotkaniemi seem to have more confidence, right? So hopefully we see a bit more of that.
Now, do you feel that that's, and this is not basing it on advanced stats only, but your view and your eye test, do you feel that they have more, they're playing a more confident style, a more competitive style now that the Ducharme has taken over?
I think it's still too early. I think last night, I think you saw the tweet I tweeted out, sobering assessment was that they actually didn't win the 5-on-5 game. They were -1, and they were saved by their penalty kill and power play, which is what we have not seen all year. Just imagine if they had an average special teams all year, we would not be having this conversation. Julian would still be there. I mean, Julian left a team that was number 1 5-on-5 goals for. He left a team that was number 2 5-on-5 goals against. That to me is like, you show that data to someone and say you're firing that coach that's got the best 5-on-5 team in the league. It's just crazy. It's not expected goals. That is actual goals. So it really shows that the power play and penalty kill can just kill your confidence, and kill your ability to get out of jail free. Win a game just by scoring a goal like Petrie did last night.
Yeah, the Canadians are definitely not the Leafs when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Treg, you had a question.
If I can get it out. So
And he's frozen.
And I didn't get it. I'm back. So the power play is 3 for 7 with Ducharme. What do you see as the big difference and the big factor in why it's improved so much in the little amount of time that he's had?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too soon to look at the data if you're asking me for the data piece, but and I haven't looked at like the shot maps or anything like that, but just exactly what you guys see, right? Like just the eye test is saying they're giving the torch, or they're giving the baton to, Kotkaniemi, Suzuki, the forwards instead. It doesn't look like they're deferring as much. I noticed a few times that they deferred quite a few times 5-on-5 and on the power play at the point. But that's going to happen. I mean, that's still a good play in hockey. You're not going to completely eliminate that, right? So I just really like the attempt for the seam pass last night. Even if it fails, you're causing confusion for the defenders, and that is worth something. I think. Are you guys you must be Mary Lemieux fans, right?
Well, yeah.
I love Mary Lemieux, and I think he was just the most magical player ever to play the game. And I remember him saying stuff like this. One of his quotes was, on the power play, when I've got the puck at the hash mark, or like he used to play near the goal line, kind of, right? He's like, if I don't have a play, I'm just flipping it to the front of the net, because you're just causing confusion, and you have to trust that your players are gonna fight for it, right? And I just think the Habs, just with their power play in the past, they just didn't have the confidence to try those plays, and they're doing the simple plays. So I like that they're trying those plays, and they failed a couple times, and And some of them looked really risky, some of those cross ice seam passes, but worked.
Yeah, Kotkaniemi, he got almost 2 full minutes at 5 on the power play, and he was able to create a ton of offensive opportunities from the half wall. So that seemed to be an adjustment that was brought on by Burrows, by letting him just go in and play a little bit more. They're taking advantage of his strong play and letting him create, because he that's his strength. He has that vision. He has that hockey IQ. Let him create on the power play, and it paid off with a couple of power play goals.
Yeah, and he was on with Suzuki, right? And I don't think we've seen that before. And Suzuki kind of stayed in the middle. It's just putting all your power on the one play, and I think that's fantastic. I mean, you got so many more options when you have both those guys on the ice.
That's right.
I mean, the one thing I would say about Kotkaniemi, and a couple of guys said it on Twitter last night, is that, I mean, he was playing on the power play before. You know, he was kind of getting the secondary, and it wasn't working out, and his confidence was low. And it's just amazing how when you start him, and they must have pumped him up and given him some confidence, it looks a lot different. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of games, it's looked really different with him, because we saw, as you said, with the secondary chances, or, you know, the tail end of the power play, and it just seems like he was just forcing his shots too much, or just trying to force a play, and either he was throwing it into traffic, or he was just shooting it in the goalie's chest and killing the play. So last night it was fantastic to see him just using the instruments in his toolbox. He was passing, he was shooting, and it kind of gave the power play a little bit more danger, I guess. And they weren't just referring it to their defense and just shooting it on net.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the confidence thing is a big issue with this team. And I think Ducharme, I'm still not sold on whether I love exactly how he's doing it. Again, going to the fact that he started Danault and the OT the other night. The fact that, you know, they had the lead last night, so it's a little bit different. But when you have a hot player like Kotkaniemi, you can clearly see he's focused. You got to run with him, right? So I want to see a bit more of that. I want to see, like, I'm actually live in Ottawa, and I watch the Sens quite a bit, and the magic to their you know, success, a little bit of success this year, is the fact that they've given the responsibility to the young guys. They kind of have no choice, and they just feel big, and they know that it's their responsibility to do something. If you keep kicking those kids back for Danault and for Perry, it doesn't feel like their team. The shootout that Julian got fired after, to me, when they sent out Perry, and I love that guy, I love the signing, but it sent a message to the rest of the team. Like, is this Perry's team, or is it Kotkaniemi's team? Is it Suzuki's team? If you want those guys to feel that way, you need to put them in the response, the high responsibility spots, in my opinion.
I brought up a point after that loss, the fact that they didn't use either of those guys. And I brought up the fact that the Canadians are always tweeting out these little videos, and it's showing a lot of the youth, like, I'm not going to say screwing around at practice, but they're practicing their shootout moves and everything. And we know that they're not going to play. They're not going to use some of these moves, obviously, in a game. However, the skill is there. The shootout is a skills competition. Why not utilize them when you're showing them off as much, and give them their opportunity to shine, instead of using some of these, say, more veteran players?
I totally agree. I mean, that goal that Norris scored on Carey Price is going to carry him for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, confidence-wise.
Yeah.
And you missed out on that opportunity to give that to Suzuki or Kotkaniemi.
Yeah.
So
now Ducharme hasn't.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Ducharme in his first shootout, or in his first overtime, started with Danault and Armia. Of course, Habs Twitter went wild, said there's no changes. Now Ducharme's explanation was, I wanted Danault to win the face-off, and then I was going to switch him with someone else. That's great if it works, but if it doesn't work, you're stuck with what you're stuck with. And I guess the question here is, he's not breaking that line up. I get in the past they were 5-on-5, one of the better 5-on-5 lines in the league. But don't you think to make this Kotkaniemi Suzuki's team, Kotkaniemi has to move up into that second line role with, say, a Toffoli and Gallagher? Like,
Yeah, I agree, but I
what
think
is
so. Keep
what
cutting
is
each other off.
I was just gonna say, what is the reasoning behind him? Because I know he's an analytic type coach. What is he just trying to kickstart that line, or is he just looking at the analytics, said, well, it's worked for the past 3 years?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I don't think it's analytics. I just think it's like everybody knows that line was one of the best 5-on-5 lines, if not the best, in the past 2 years. And it's hard to move on from that, right? It's hard for them to move on from Weber on the power play. And it's just this ingrained hockey way of doing things. Your leaders are your leaders, you pump them out. And they need to bite that bullet. I mean, I think Julian did it last year with Suzuki in the bubble. I mean, it was pretty crazy that all of a sudden they took Deneau and he was clearly secondary to Suzuki. They need to do that again, and maybe they need to jump it and do Kotkaniemi in that second role. My only data thing that I can flip out to you guys is, and I tweeted it out a couple of days ago, is it's clear that the organization, or definitely Julian, doesn't have the love for Kotkaniemi's defensive game quite yet. He clearly has sheltered him. I threw out a chart there that shows that Kotkaniemi is really sheltered, whereas Suzuki is facing some of the stiffest competition there is. And that's twofold. One, because your coach doesn't mind you being out against the best. And secondarily, the other team is not focusing on Deneau, who's got 1 goal in 51 games. They're focusing on Suzuki. Even if you make the argument that Suzuki is not a top player, or that line's not that is the top offensive threat on the team. So Kotkaniemi is not facing those difficulties. He's not getting the D zone starts. He's not facing the other team's tough competition. So he's got to make that. The team has to put him in that responsibility slot, as they say.
Well, he did have some of that in the play-in and the playoff, and they did well. I mean, Deneau was moved down to a third line role, and they had broken up that power line that they had. And with Kotkaniemi's play recently, he's showing a lot of what he showed during that play-in. So looking at last night's game, people who watched, I mean, he got the first star. Kotkaniemi got the first star, and he only had 12:49 of ice time total for the game. So you start to wonder, why is he getting so little ice time if he's doing so well? And it comes to that sheltering question that you brought up.
Yeah, and I think it could be, you could argue that it's the cart and the horse there. The reason he's doing well is because he's being put in the offensive zone faceoffs. He's facing other teams' third, fourth line. So when you look at the data, and people love on Twitter, people say, oh, look at the X goal percentage and all this kind of stuff. Well, I think it's good, but he's not facing the top end. Same with Kulak and those guys. So you can pump out those stats all you want, but they're not facing Bergeron. They're not facing Matthews and that kind of stuff. Obviously they are, but not to the same degree.
And my argument to that point would be, he's doing that well now. Why not bump up his responsibilities? Test him, see how he does. Maybe give him an extra 2 minutes ice time.
I agree. But these kids got to take it a bit more seriously too, like Suzuki and Kotkaniemi on the faceoffs. I mean, I focused some of my data on faceoffs the past couple of days, because I'm trying to ask, why are they so bad on the power play and the penalty kill? And part of it is the faceoffs. They're starting every power play and every penalty kill losing the faceoff, and that's Deneau too. Deneau is down. He historically has a good faceoff percentage, but this year it's not good. And it's actually Evans that has the top faceoff on the team, and he's best on the team, but it's barely average in the league. So that is a serious thing. And I'm not a big faceoff guy, but the data does show you win the faceoff on the penalty kill. The next 30 seconds, you don't have to worry about it. It's out of the zone. You've just killed 30 seconds of your penalty kill, and they're not getting that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I was looking at the stats last night on faceoffs. I think Deneau's like 50% is what he is for the year right now, 51. And Kotkaniemi and Suzuki are 45. So that's before last night's game, mind you. And last night they were only 44% on the faceoff dot. I think they were like 21% after the first period. So the second and third were better, but their faceoffs has just been the
I got
all
the
year
the penalty kill I got up. So Deneau's penalty kill face-off percentage is 41%, which puts him outlier bad, like not even okay, just outlier bad. And that people will say, well, that only equates to 3 face-offs over, 3 lost face-offs over a week of games or whatever. But still, that's enough to get 1 power play goal against you because you couldn't get it out, right?
Now, Kotkaniemi is very inconsistent.
Yeah,
he'd be 60% one game and 20% the next.
And you'd want all your centermen to be close to 50%. If they were all at about 50%, I don't think it'd be as big of an issue as it is now.
Yeah, I think it's telling that Evans has a good face-off percentage. I mean, at the beginning of the year, there was a couple of things I highlighted: penalty kill, power play, and C4. These are the holes that they have to figure out. And C4, I think, is a really important. If you're a Stanley Cup contending team, it's a red alert that you have a rookie in that hole, and at any moment your GM is probably could replace him if he's not going to be that good. And I think it's really telling that he's got a good face-off percentage, or decent. It shows that Bouchard did his work, I think, and it also shows that there's not too many rookies that have a good face-off percentage, because the linesmen kick them out, and they allow the veterans to cheat. So I think they might have a little gem here in this kid, and they got to really keep working on him.
Not bad for a francophone coach in the minors.
Yeah. Maybe they need to send Kotkaniemi and Suzuki down just for a couple of weeks and work on their face-off. I don't know.
Well, with all the coaching changes going on recently, and we'll get into the big change that happened last night a little bit later. But for right now, with all these changes, I don't see why they can't go out and find a face-off specialist to help their centerman figure this out.
Yeah. Well, I think they thought that Deneau was that guy. And it's really, if you were Bergevin, you're sitting up there, you're just like, oh my goodness, do I really need to trade him or find a 4C? Because I got this guy, or a face-off specialist. I got this guy who should be that. Do you try to correct it, or do you have to go out and get one? I personally am not a proponent of having a face-off specialist just to sit on your bench. I think that's 10, 20 years ago. I'm not sure teams can really afford to do that nowadays.
Well, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't want to get another centerman to bring in that they can keep on the taxi squad and use for veteran help. But my point was more to getting a coach, like a face-off specialist coach. I mean, other teams have it, and they're like the LA Kings. They've been doing fairly well in the face-off circle and have been improving skills. So I don't see why they couldn't get like a Yannick Perreault to come in and help with some face-offs.
If I was a betting man, I would put a lot of money down that Bergevin is going to go get a 4C by the end of the year, if they're in the playoffs. And it's no slight against Evans. It's to your point, Blaine, that they need to have somebody on the squad just in case somebody goes down or whatever, right? I mean, he's done that in the past. Remember the fourth line with they had like 2 or 3 really strong AHLers. This is like 3 or 4 years ago now.
Otten Martinson?
No, but they went and traded for those guys. Before that, who was on the fourth line? Agostini?
Yeah.
Oh, Metropolitan.
And who is the other young guy? These guys are solid, fringe NHLers. I thought that they were really good, but I just don't think that he trusted them. Even though they washed out really well data-wise, I don't think he trusted them, and they went out and got Ott, and he went out and got whatever. I can see him doing similar thing this year.
All right. What about the penalty kill? We watched them play pretty strong on the penalty kill in that one game. They did pretty well in the two games prior with Winnipeg, despite giving up a goal against Ehlers in that 2-1 loss. After Ehlers, of course, dove like he was shot by a sniper from the rafters.
I thought he was
Um,
dead.
Yeah, yeah. The funeral homes were being called, but it seems the penalty kill has shifted a little bit back towards the power kill that you had been talking about at the start of the year. That first 10 games there, the Canadians were really, really aggressive attacking the puck carrier in the neutral zone, and it seems they've gone back to that. Have you noticed that? Has the data backed that up as well?
Not really. It's still really too early. It's still
Yeah.
really too early with Ducharme and what's been going on there. But I don't think there's been that much change, other than maybe they're a bit more motivated to be a bit more aggressive. But I still think the PK is still in their zone, too
Yeah.
passive. And I just don't know. I just really wonder if it's the personnel. I just really wonder if they're overestimating Weber's ability, overestimating Lehkonen, and I pick on Lehkonen and Danault. I just don't think those guys are world-beating penalty killers, and they're kind of treated that way. I think they need to maybe look in the team, and Julien was doing that at the beginning of the season. I noticed he was having a lot of other players go on the penalty kill, and then he reeled it back a bit. There's something there. There's something there that they're not, and it could also be an insight to their 5-on-5 play. Even though they have great 5-on-5 numbers, this is data that's available to the public, right? So their expected goals against and their shot metrics look fantastic, but there's something there that they're doing wrong. And I think it could possibly have to do with missing seam passes, allowing too many seam passes, maybe not covering maybe they don't have a good game plan covering the correct players. I'm pulling at straws here because I just don't really know what it is. And for the PK, it's a little easier. I think they're just not good with they allow the seam passes. They're not aggressive in their own end. And I just don't think that Lehkonen and Danault have the knack, the special knack. These guys are NHL. These guys are top tier NHLers. Like, I'm not trying to say that they're garbage. They're average to below average on the PK. And I just wonder if it has to do with the style they play. They hustle, they go hard, but that's not necessarily what a good PKer is. A good PKer is like hustling at the right moment, or getting the stick in the lane, or hiding behind coverage like Suzuki did a couple times last night. That kid has gone through a stretch. Here's my Suzuki plug. That kid has gone through a stretch where the stuff's not really working. He looks like he's stretching himself thin a little bit. A couple funny plays he's making, but you can see that his baseline positioning play is still top notch. And that's why the coaches love him. They know they're going to stick him out, and he's going to be in the right position. He's able to steal pucks and tip pucks because he knows where to be at the right time. He knows when to slow down. He knows when to hide and reveal himself. And he made a couple plays last night that were exactly that kept the play alive, because he wasn't hustling like a crazy guy like Lehkonen. He was really focused on positioning himself for the next attack.
Namely that zone exit where he just laid the puck out in an open area for Toffoli to step into for the empty net.
Yeah, exactly. And there was one forecheck I remember as well. I almost tweeted it out, but I was too busy watching the game. There are a couple plays. One was on the penalty kill, I believe, where the puck was being bobbled, and I noticed that, I was thinking in my head, if that was Lehkonen, he'd be going after the puck. But Suzuki knew that if he went after the puck, he'd be overextending and he would probably lose the battle. So what he did was slide behind the defenseman who was at the point, and it was a bit of a scramble, and he waited for people to reach in, and then he came in and got it. And he stole it, and he got the puck out. Just because he was calm and using his IQ. So anyway, that's my Suzuki plug. Love the kid, even in this little slump he's having here.
Yeah, and on the PK, the standard saying is your best penalty killer is your goaltender, And I'm looking at some of the high danger chances or the PK percentages in a message you sent me, the goalie penalty killing profile, and I'm looking at Jake Allen and Carey Price, and they're not where I'd expect them to be. You'd expect Carey Price to be much, much higher, but he's down in the bad zone.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone's going crazy for Carey Price here. And I tweeted out some stats, so again, going cascading down some of the stats, 5-on-5, his stats are actually good. They're not spectacular, but the team is doing well in front of him and he's doing okay. But where he's not, the eye test is that he's saving the difficult shot and he's letting it in a softie. That's not good, but the 5-on-5 still washing out. The PK, the high danger chances, of the 5-on-5, again,
Yeah,
super strong. But it's the PK, like you said, Blaine. The PK, the team is doing terrible for both goalies, and Price is not bailing them out. So he's giving them, he's not adding, he's not saving them on their poor penalty kill. Whereas Jake Allen is not completely saving them, but he's doing better work. So his PK save percentage is 90.6, Jake Allen, and Price's is 84.8. So, that's the last 10 games. So hopefully we see that rise up a bit. So the big issue is the special teams. The PK is deflating them. It's making Carey Price look bad in his overall numbers, and the power play up until last night is not saving them.
Yeah,
Matt,
it's
you had a
weird to
question,
say
or-
that Montreal's specialty teams is actually what won the game last night. I don't think we could say that all season. So,
No.
I mean, there's a positive right there.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you guys are hockey guys, right? So it's like we tend to panic with every game and all this kind of stuff. For Carey Price, we need to do something here. But the reality is, you hear Bergevin say it, and lots of hockey people say it. You want to just not go in these big slumps. You want to just keep going, and you just kind of gotta pray to the hockey gods that you're hitting your stride at the right time. And so you got to ask yourself, can Carey Price do that? Absolutely. So I want Carey Price between the pipes if they're making the playoffs, don't you? Right?
Yes.
Even if he lost 5 games into the playoffs, I want Carey Price on my team. And now that they have Jake Allen, that's fantastic. Same with Danault. Like, you got to ask yourself, he's going through a bit of a slump, but is he the kind of player you want in the playoffs, especially if Suzuki and Kotkaniemi are going? Probably yes, right?
Well, and Carey Price came back, answered his critics. I mean, he came out and won a game, and he played a solid game. He wasn't a world beater last night against Ottawa. We can all admit that. But positionally, he was much better. His confidence seemed a lot higher. Like, for instance, that giveaway to Tkachuk, Price misplayed the puck. Tkachuk kind of overskated, turned around, and was able to get a quick shot off. But Price, no panic in his game. Got set, expected the shot, and it looked like an easy stop. Whereas another goaltender, maybe even Jake Allen, a little misplay like that, they'd scramble and it might have been a goal. So that play made me feel a little bit more confident in Price going forward, which kind of made me wonder why they did what they did soon after Dom Ducharme's first NHL win and fire Stefan Waite. Matt, did you have a question on that one?
We can kind of look at it this way. Obviously Jake Allen did really good things under that coach, under Waite. Do you think that that's going to change at all? Bringing in a new guy like Burke, like Allen did really good last year, and obviously Bergevin saw that and went and plucked him out of the Blues, and he's done really good things for Montreal. So is a coaching change going to really make a difference with Allen, or do you think he's going to kind of stay status quo?
Is that for me or for Jason?
Either one of you.
I'll let Jason go. You're the guest. Give her.
I don't know. I just go running off what you're saying, Blaine, is that this probably was in the works for a while, right? You guys were Treasure talking about it before we got on here about how it could have been more that they wanted to keep Burke in the organization and all that kind of stuff. So behind the scenes, we have no idea what's going on, right? So and a change for a change. You guys know that I've been critical of Bergevin a lot. I still will be, because that's you got to go right to the top when things are not going good. The beginning of the season, one of the things I underlined as well was, okay, he doesn't have his retool hat on anymore. This is not a rebuild, and GMs need to look at things a lot differently when they're in win mode, and that means you got to make decisive, quick changes. Now, the NHL, you lose one game, it's not good. You have to plug those holes, and sometimes you pay more to plug those holes. So I guess the point I'm making is even if he believed that Julian's a better coach than Ducharme, if the shock of firing him gets you 5 more wins, you do it. This is where you do it. It sounds terrible, but I think that's part of the game as well. So change in the organization is probably good. You need to hear new voices.
A stat that was brought out on Twitter that I've been kind of redoing is in the first 4 years with Waite, who Bergevin hired in 2013 and brought over from Chicago because they worked together in Chicago, Carey Price had a .926 save percentage. The past 4 years, it was .908. Now, that's just Carey Price under Steve Waite. Now you look at all the backups and prospects that came through the system under Steve Waite that went nowhere. Mike Condon, Dustin Tokarski, Ante Niemi, Keith Kincaid. The list goes on of backup Al Montoya. So everyone looks at the goaltender coach, looks at the number one goalie and thinks, well, they only work with the number one goalie. The number one goalie is the number one goalie because he's a good goalie. The coaching just kind of puts him in the place that he needs to be, right? It's the other guys you got to look at, and where they're going is when you have to really look at your goaltending coach and see if he's doing the right job, in my opinion, because your starter is going to be your starter. He's going to win you the games. He's going to do well because that's why he got the starting job. But everyone behind him. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. Sorry, keep going. Now your thought.
Yeah, and then everyone behind Price, though, didn't go anywhere. Didn't improve anything. Kincaid actually got worse. Niemi got worse as he went on. Condon and Tokarski aren't even in the league now, I don't think. Was Waite the right person for the job as long as he was? Because really, it's only Price that was successful under him, if you really think about it.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a great point in the sense that hockey and managing your program, as Dubas would say, right? I like those words because it's not, managing a hockey team is not straightforward now. Is a goalie coach just trying to improve the goalie by having certain exercises, or is it greater than that? Is it understanding the psyche? Is it saying, he needs a week off, let's give him a week off, or let's have programs in place, competition or whatever, that change the mind and all that what you might call fluffy piece. But those aspects of the game are becoming bigger in hockey now. Jack Han, I think you guys follow him on Twitter too. He's like, I love that guy. He's really good, and he gets into those kinds of things. And he's hinted a lot to the Habs organization being critical on their development, their poor development. And I would tack on top of that, maybe thinking outside the box as well, and thinking about those other elements of the game, psychology and all those pieces, data analytics that are going to help you. Do you just focus on practice and system, or what are all those other bubbles that you're looking at? So it goes to your point, Trez, that, younger, different minds are going to look at things differently. I think one of the goalie, was it Matt Murray last night? He didn't dress, right?
Right.
They gave him the day or two off or something like that. And somebody on Twitter also said, like, that's interesting. These little things, like, you have to ask yourself, why are these teams doing this? And why are the Habs not doing it? Why aren't they saying, go shopping, go fly back home for a day or two or whatever to Price. And I don't know.
Well, with the hiring of Sean Burke now in a new position that they named director of goaltending, it seems like they're going in that direction of a program, as you mentioned. Um, Before it was just a goalie coach, and they had a goalie coach for each level. Now it's director of goaltending, and they all fall under him. As it's almost as if he is now elevated to an assistant GM position with an entire department underneath him. And it does seem to be pointing in that direction. I mean, the Florida Panthers started with this kind of program, I think, this season, at the start of this season. And Sean Burke is known a little bit as a goaltending whisperer, because he's gone around. He's been a goalie coach at different levels, and he's improved them. So now they've put him in charge of this program where I'm not sure what resources are provided to him just yet, but it does seem that he's given a promotion, a raise, a staff. So I would not be surprised if they went in the direction you mentioned, Jason, of an all-encompassing program that includes the mental aspect of the game, not just the technical side, all of it. Because Jack Ann is right. The Canadians have been horrible on the developmental side with goaltending, which is ironic considering Montreal is known as known for its great goalies over 100+ years. I mean, no Montreal Canadian team has ever won a Stanley Cup without a great goaltender in between the pipes. So it just seems a little odd that they haven't been more proactive with this. So this is the direction I think they're taking. I don't know what your take is on it, but feel free to let us know. I mean, any one of you, just jump right in.
For me, we've seen some failures within the organization to come to goaltending. One of them being Fucali, and obviously both of you guys being in Halifax, you guys got to see him play quite a bit. When I was back visiting family, I was able to see him play a couple times in Moncton or St. John, and really like what I saw. Then the Canadians drafted him, and I was like, we might have something here. We saw that his career hasn't necessarily taken off the way that we were going to. Another one was Charlie Lindgren, was a guy that kind of came in and seemed to play bigger in the moment. He looked better in the NHL than he did in the AHL, and now he's a fringe AHL starter / taxi squad type guy. And it's all come back to Price. And I've noticed that they still have a gem in their organization. They still got a guy like Caden Primo, and they seem to be. I'm not going to necessarily say sheltering him, but it looks like they're kind of
Grooming.
Yeah, they're kind of grooming him. They know that there's an opportunity that they might lose Jake Allen in the expansion draft, and Bouchard has kind of came out and said, like, this is my guy. This is my starter. I'm going to look at the goaltending that they have right now. They've got McNiven, they got Demchenko, they got Lindgren, and they've got Primo all fighting for position right now in a season in the AHL that really means nothing. They're really just playing to play right now. There's no playoffs. There's no championship. There's no nothing. This is more or less a development year for him. So my take on this is they've had their failures within the organization, and I think that Primo is going to be the guy that is going to be the guy that they kind of put a light on and say, in the past we had our bumps, but look what we have now. And I think that'll be kind of like a telling sign of what's to come within this new role for Sean Burke.
Well, with all these internal hires, I mean, Sean Burke, Dom Ducharme, all these promotions from within, Alex Burrows. I'm going to ask Jason this one. Do you think it signals that Molson doesn't have that trust that people think he does, and he's not letting Bergevin have the latitude to go hire elsewhere? Maybe just because it's his last year, next year?
I think no. I think this is an example of really good succession planning on their part. I mean, when they hired Ducharme, Bouchard, Burrows, what was it, 3 years ago now?
Yeah,
I
something
think,
like that. Yeah.
I mean, I think we all said these are top end people. These are not just, former assistants and stuff like that. These guys are head leaders. And so I just think that was probably, even at the time they hired them, I'm sure Molson and Bergevin had that conversation, said that these are guys, if we want to keep them, we're going to need to promote them. So let's groom them and promote them. I totally think that. I totally think that these guys are the guys.
Even the goaltending coach they have in the AHL, that Mariano, he coached with Ducharme and Bouchard. So we're seeing a lot of similarity, and he was in the organization before Ducharme or Bouchard. So we're seeing a lot of friends and acquaintances coming back together within the organization.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
for success, I was just going to say, for success, coaching staff has to gel as well. So, I mean, like if your coaching staff doesn't gel together, it's just like a line in hockey. If it's not gelling together, it's not going to be successful. So if you have guys that are similar in minded and worked together before and had success, why not put them together?
So maybe we can bring the Sedins in to help with the power play with Burrows then. See what happens there.
They're free agents. We can sign them up.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah, they brought in Marty St. Louis, if you guys remember last year, into Columbus, and because they've had a poor power play for quite a while. He wasn't able to make improvements there. I mean, I think you can only go so far with the system when it comes to the power play and coaching. Like you need the horses, you need the creativity from the players themselves. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I totally think that these coaches were already set up to be there. I mean, you look at Drouin. To me, he looks like a different guy. He's even in the losing, like he's happier. He looks like feels responsible for the team on the ice, if that makes sense. I'm really into that feeling the responsibility kind of thing. And he was definitely somebody who I thought this was the year that he's going to fall off the radar, and it's the complete opposite has happened so far. So very good.
His compete level seems to be a little bit higher in the last couple of games. That's for sure. It's nice to see him shooting the puck, and I've been very critical on him for a long time of not shooting the puck, and just the little things and the small chances. And he's playing the body a little bit more as well, which we never saw from him. We always saw him kind of shy away from more or less the defensive side, and it's more or less like, hey guys, I'm over here, pass the puck to me, and that was it. And he made some good plays last night, just turning his skates the right way and getting into lanes. And I like that aspect of his game. And it's kind of funny that we see that under Ducharme, who's more of an offensive minded coach, rather than a coach that he played under now for the last few years being very defensive minded. And now we're seeing that aspect of his game kind of take off in the last 3 games.
He's playing the way he did in Halifax, is the way he's playing now. He didn't have a bad 200-foot game in Halifax. So no coincidence that his coach in Halifax was Dom Ducharme. So it is what it is. But I'm a big Drouin fan, so.
Yeah, it does seem like the new voice taking over in the room kind of breathed new life into some of the younger players. And this is what the GM mentioned in his press conference. And as we record, it's Wednesday, March 3rd. It's about noon. Marc Bergevin is about to address the media publicly, more than likely about the new hiring with Sean Burke. So in his last press conference, that's what he was talking about, was those new voices. And this more than likely is what he's going to address when it comes to Sean Burke, a new voice, because Treg, you mentioned it. I believe Grant McCagg of recruits.ca mentioned the same thing, where the beginning of his term with the team, Price had good numbers and then they start to fall off. You bring in a new voice. There's some other minor tweaks and changes, a new approach, and players respond to that. And then they'll step in and usually raise their games a little bit. Speaking of raising our game, hey fellas, we're in the thick of winter and the storms are brewing. It looks like 1 to 3 inches are in the forecast when you trim that hibernation bush, and that's taking place in your pants. Luckily, our partners at Manscaped specialize in products to make sure you're walking around town with beautiful snowballs. Manscaped is here to provide you with the best tools for your grooming experience, offering precision engineered tools for your family jewels. The Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer is the best hygiene tool product for the modern man. Because of the ceramic blade and advanced skin safe technologies, your snags on your snowballs will be reduced. The trimmer is also waterproof, so you can trim in the shower or a jacuzzi if you're some kind of a savage. Manscaped Performance Package is the best buy of 2021. The Performance Package comes with the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 Weed Whacker, ear and nose hair trimmer, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag. Have you ever noticed how nasty nose and ear hair is? In fact, 79% of partners polled admitted that long nose hair is a major turnoff. Might as well use the best tools to do the job. This bundle also comes with a Crop Preserver ball deodorant and Crop Reviver ball toner. The Crop Preserver is anti-chafing ball deodorant that will make your balls smell nice and make you feel your testes are walking in a winter wonderland. The Crop Reviver is a spray-on toner for your balls. It's made with soothing aloe and witch hazel extracts that will make your balls look up at you and say thanks. And if they do look up, change your medication. Don't get cold feet this winter. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code unfiltered20 at manscaped.com. They also have a ton of other amazing men's hygiene products on their website, from disposable mats for your pubes to foot deodorant. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code unfiltered20. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code unfiltered20. Thanks, Manscaped, for making our winter wieners look so good. Whew. Not a bad ad read.
I still smile at that promo, and I looked at Jason a few times, and he's just kind of grinning as well.
That's great.
Well, you gotta get those ad reads in when you can.
How come the Canadians don't have like Weber do that during the intermission or something? Like, because
I don't think he said more than
sponsors
5 words in his entire tenure in Montreal.
Get Kotkaniemi to do it. Actually, since
Is he
Kotkaniemi
old
put
enough
that,
to shave down there?
I don't know. Since Kotkaniemi put that little saying on his stick, the get angry. What was it? Get angry or
you
fuck
MFer?
off or something. Yeah, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Sorry, mother.
Oh, yeah.
Mother lover.
That's my thing. I'm the guy that swears.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, before we end everything here, we had a question come in from one of our avid listeners. So Pierre Lirette sent us an email at habsunfiltered@outlook.com, and he thanks us for giving him the chance to ask this question. I thought it was a good one, so I'm going to throw it to Jason. I think that Ben Sherratt has been a liability on defense lately. If anyone was getting a night off, I would have liked it to be him. Why isn't he getting time off? So that's Pierre's question. I'm going to leave it to you, Jason, to kind of address what you think of it.
No, these questions are great. I love this question because all those guys, whether it's Weber or Sherratt or Edmondson, they're very polarizing on Habs Twitter. It's quite incredible. So for Sherratt, same thing last year. You had people in the bubble, guys like Bieksa and all these guys saying that these guys are like amazing. And then you have people on Twitter saying, they're garbage, you got to get them off. So it is quite incredible. Anyway, by the numbers, Sherratt and Weber have been fantastic this year, except when they hit this 10 game stretch, they kind of tailed off. Like, did they tail off into a dumpster? Definitely not. But I mean, hockey's a game of adjustments, right? So I think teams are focusing on them. They're trying to get on them a bit. And I think it's Laurie on Twitter mentioned the other day that, like maybe Sherratt seems like he's doing a bit too much, right? But still, even if the eye says that, the data, if you like data, It says that he's doing okay. They're not allowing a lot of high danger chances, those two guys. They're not, they're on the right side of the shots metrics. What people I think don't like is that they're not, it seems that the play dies on their stick, which again is something Laurie said, and it could be true, but from a very basic hockey perspective, as a coach, you're sitting there, and this would be Julian, your number one priority is to get that damn puck out of the zone, right? And then we'll ask questions later. Like true conservative hockey coaches give you 5 marks right for that alone, and that's what they tend to do. Weber Sherratt tends to get it out of his zone. Do you like where it ends up when it gets out of the zone? Maybe not. It's not a breakaway pass. It's not a wicked creative pass, but it gets out of the zone. So it depends on what you value, I guess, right? And I've said this about Edmondson as well, is that obviously Bergevin is valuing that aspect of the game. Get away from the high danger zone, which the Habs have been good at, limiting high danger chances against. Get it out of our zone, which they've been good at. Full marks. It's the rest of the game that they don't wash out very well, right? And the eye test doesn't wash out either. You see Carlson, you see all these other defensemen making these nice little dipsy doodles and doing a nice pass that sets up their forwards for success. The Habs don't set their forwards up for success. They do a lot of work to grind it out themselves. That's the team they built. So it depends on what you're measuring. When you talk about performance, the first question you're going to ask is what are you measuring? And the Habs would measure high danger chances and getting it out of the zone. And for that reason, those guys get full marks. You see them sit Kulak. And why is that? Because his breakouts look pretty darn good, right? It's because a gaff here, 1 or 2 gaffes, and you let a high danger chance or an odd man rush. As soon as you let that happen, your coach is saying, I don't like that. I want to eliminate that completely. And that's the kind of game that the Habs like. Whether you like it or not, that's what they're measuring against.
Yeah. And when you have a goaltender like Carey Price and Jake Allen, even, if you can keep high danger chances down to a minimum, you would expect those 2 goaltenders to take care of the easier shots, the so-called easier shots. And that goal differential should improve just based on that alone. So that's, I agree with you. I think that's the view that the GM and the prior coach was taking when they wanted these guys in these spots. And
you could argue the opposite though, right?
Yeah.
If you have good goalies, well, maybe you should play a bit more risky game.
Yeah.
And Edmondson, if you ask me what kind of marks I give him, I give the guy full marks. He's doing what they're asking him to do, and the stats are bearing out. The only argument you can have against Bergevin and Edmondson is that as a fan, you don't want that kind of player there. What you want is Torrey Krug, or what you want, every fan wants that fantastic puck moving defenseman. But if he's not there and you can't get that, then obviously the organization has chosen to double down on these kinds of defensemen.
I personally think they should go back to the 80s, 90s style of a puck mover with a stay-at-home guy on each line. And I think that's the argument with Sherratt and Weber together, is that they'll both improve if you put them in different scenarios. So Weber with a Torrey Krug type player, or a
Mete.
No, not
Mete.
Not Mete. It does not work.
I'm going to cut you off. The stats bear that out. If you look at Weber and Mete when they've been together, which is not a massive sample, but it's not super small. It's like 20 games or whatever. They have been fantastic. Well, there you go. You know your data. They have been good.
But so is Kulak and
Very
Petrie.
good.
Kulak and
Exactly.
Petrie are very good together. So do we put Mete and Weber, Kulak and Petrie, and Romanov and Edmondson, Sherratt?
Edmondson?
And then Sherratt too. I mean, I've been defending Mete. You can tell the last few weeks. You can ask these guys.
He hasn't. He's been throwing him under the bus.
I have so. I just don't see Mete. I just don't think Mete can handle a top line, top 4 minutes type game. It's not his play with Weber.
I look at Brandstrom in Ottawa, and I'm like, Mete can do 90% of what that guy does. He's higher end in the zone with how, his ability to score and pass, but the breakout piece and 95% of the game, it looks just like Mete Brandstrom. The Habs they got to work with that. They need to work with that.
But Mete can't do anything else.
But that's a really big part of the game.
Maybe Romanov needs to get Mete in practice like he did Brandstrom the other day and wake him up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think Romanov would pair nicely with Weber, to be honest with you. Personally.
To be overly honest, and Patrick from Eyes on the Prize is not going to like me saying this. Everyone's super high on Romanov, but they don't have somebody in the organization that is that top end skill puck moving guy. I don't think Romanov's that. I don't want to be. I'm not here to bash or whatever. I hope he does get there, but I don't see that level of skill. His skating's amazing, and his shooting is. He hit the crossbar twice on. Like, they're going to get really good value out of him. Like Petrie, for example. Petrie is super high value, but he doesn't have that je ne sais quoi skill that Quinn has, or that Krug has, or you know what I mean. And if you don't have that, I don't think you can try to pretend that you have it in Kulak and think he's going to do that, because he can't.
No, they might get it with Norlander.
Yes, I'm rarely interested.
Norlander looks promising.
Yeah,
I do see some upside on Romanov's game. I do see him as someone who could possibly step into a top line role eventually. And you're right, he doesn't have that elite skill. He's more of a little bit of a jack of all trades with an excellent skating base. So
yeah, and guys have survived.
Value. Yeah,
like Nick Leddy, Brody.
Yeah.
I would classify those guys the same mold as Roman. Well, I mean, different, but the ability to skate and to move and to get the puck in the right spot, but they don't have that crazy elite skill to finish and to make plays.
Markov's a perfect comparison. Markov never had elite skill.
Markov was
elite. But I think he had that je ne sais quoi. The thing that Suzuki has, the thing that Toffoli has. These guys that don't have the physical skill, but they have this unbelievable creativity. You know what I mean?
That feel for the game, the way they read the game and anticipate the plays. I know people boil it down to just calling it hockey IQ, but there's more to it than just that.
Yeah, exactly. Like Petrie is a great example. The guy has an unbelievable physical skill, and he's a super pro that has figured out how he can maximize everything. Got a hard shot. He knows how to pass. But I wouldn't give him, if I was making NHL 2001, I wouldn't give him like 100% out of hockey IQ. I wouldn't give him 100% passing. I wouldn't give him 100% sniping and snapping the shot like Cale Makar and Quinn and these guys. But he's developed himself to get the max out of everything. But his ability to do that is based, my personal view, is based on just the crazy physical skill he has. He's so strong. He can skate, and he's succeeded with that.
Guys, you got anything? Any last questions for Jason?
I personally don't. I just want to thank you for being on the show, and obviously you're welcome anytime.
My pleasure, man. I'm glad you had me back on.
Absolutely. We're glad that you enjoyed the commercial. Probably next time you're on, you're going to have something new, and you'll snicker at that one too. So it's all good.
I don't. That's again, Jason. Thanks for having me on. I love your tweets. I love. I've used them a couple times in arguments I've had with people about things, especially with Edmondson. And I just want to say happy 57th birthday to Blaine Potvin. It's good.
I prefer the name Pepper.
I got you a walker. I just have to meet up with you to give it to you, just so that you can.
Do you got the tennis balls for the?
I do, because you need them on the ship. So
that's right.
Yeah. So
happy birthday, Blaine! You're looking good, man. Looking good for 67.
Well, I do what I can. I don't post gym selfies like other people, but
we know you're we know you're well groomed in other areas other than your face. So that's good to know.
I just want to make it clear that I have 2 grooming tools, a top and a bottom. I don't mix them
Nice.
up.
Don't mix that shit up.
No.
Well, he thinks he doesn't mix it up.
It's just sometimes he starts here and it starts going down, down, down. And he's like, oh, wait a minute, gotta switch.
So yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for those heartfelt, warm wishes. So touching. And Jason, I really want to thank you for coming back on. As the other guys have mentioned, you're always welcome here. Friend of the show, Jason Paul, thank you very, very much. Why don't you let our listeners know where they can find some of your work?
Yeah, my website is waveintel.org, and I've got a few tools that you guys know there. You can go in and plug in players' names and teams and spit out all kinds of stuff and throw it on the interweb so that you can win your arguments as needed. And you can find me at Twitter at waveintel. That's it. See you on Twitter.
Right on. Thanks a lot, Jason. And for listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Remember, we have a giveaway that's going on right now. We're giving away Terry Ryan's latest book. If you follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, just definitely YouTube. We really want to grow our YouTube channel. So give us follows, like, subscribe, give us 5-star ratings. We love that stuff, especially because, as the guy said, it's my birthday. I deserve something. And I'm going to give you a gift if you do follow. So you'll win an autographed Terry Ryan novel. And again, thanks for listening. And remember, if you were talking about it, so are we.